historically it's been a little under 9,000. But then about a week, or maybe it's a little bit more, I was told that based on the last census, there's 1,855. And I found that difficult because there's like 300 on Lake Street alone. But, you know, so that's the number I was given, and so I'm talking to Secretary Simon about that. But so getting back to the actual number that's certified by the state, Latino business today, there's 81. I mean, 81. I mean, so we'll be doing another effort to get people certified, but that's not acceptable at all in any measure. And so I hopefully you'll be working with the state. We'll be working together on this here to get the odds. And it's not about throwing rocks or it's not my dad's affirmative action program. It's actually really looking at how we get people registered and there's enough trained. Almost every department has somebody focuses. Everybody in the corporate world has a new diversity inclusion officer. So I think we really need to, with the resources are out there, the workers out there, we need to do a better job of contracting with Latino business, and that's probably true of most of the BIPOC community. I'm just right now focused on Hispanic Heritage Month. Anyway, thank you.
Mr. Kobe?
Yeah, Chair Johnson and Councilmember Pacheco, I appreciate that comment, and we're all responsible for advocating for our agency and advocating for our region, and we have a lot of information on our website, and I would also, next week when that RFP is released, we can send that to you and make sure to get it out to that committee as well to help them understand what are some of the projects that they could certainly secure if they know about the opportunities. So those are some of the things that we always hear is one agency does it one way, another agency does it another way. And if we can just be better about educating about opportunities to help others get a part of the contracts.
And I might just add to that, really thank you to the exceptional partnership of our colleagues in OEO. I really think in this RFP, we are trying several strategies to increase involvement from underrepresented businesses. And notably, maybe in some scenarios, we would just be seeking people who are already, registered, right? But I believe deeply that we are seeking to find people who should be registered and support them through the process of registration to both expand the pool. And I think that opens opportunity for those vendors, both with us, but also with others.
Councilmember?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And part of it is that, for me, is that when we get to this question, it is when we are in a hurry or we desperately need something, but the focus is on desperately needing a project or product, not the desperately needing to have a diverse workforce, period. And so, in a lot of work in a lot of government past that, again, the problem seems to be a reason why we can't meet these goals here. But we throw everything at it, but we have a problem over here. And so I think we need to turn that around at some point, and that's all.
I really agree, and I will say, for instance, we could have pushed this RFP we're working on through to completion and maybe have avoided the need for a bridge strategy, though I do also think a strong backup strategy that's durable for the future. But I think we would have sacrificed opportunities to do more and to do that RFP right. So even though we have a crisis, I don't think that, are responding to a particular situation, I don't think that alleviates our responsibility to do more. And I think another piece of evidence of that is in our emergency declaration, we have committed to the majority of that spend being within Cubs. Even though we are in a challenging situation, it would be much easier for me to go to Kelly or Deco and just say, give me 100 IT people, and that could be a one-stop shop. But we are spending the time to build the relationships and to bring people in our communities into this conversation, even with the urgency we have around the emergency declaration.
Any other questions? I just have a couple of comments. So the emergency declaration was probably, what, a month and a half, 2 months ago, $4 million. Where are we? Have we spent that? Is that committed?
We're 75% committed on the emergency declaration. Actual spend is closer to 25%, okay. But the bills are rolling in now.
And just so I make sure I understand, so the 4 organizations that we've got here, contract amount 1.5 million, contract numbers are already set. It's a not to exceed. is it a not to exceed up to 1.5 for each of those then? Or how are you and so that's the first part, the second part. And then again, are these advising us on strategies, or are these organizations really going to be able to bring people in? Or are we still at the how do we get to the bringing people in part?
Yeah, and so I think Jody and I should group tackle your first question. Our intention is that the total spend across all of these organizations is not to exceed the authorization of 6 million. And the 1.5 million per entity is an estimate of the 6 million that those entities that would be spent. However, our need at any given period of time and the resources available by each organization differs. So that estimate on an organization by organization basis is very rough.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know.
And sorry, did you?
And then, and again, these are strategic contractors that we're bringing in to help us get through the mid-game and the long game plan.
Correct.
Okay, and I appreciate, I mean, so we're $10 million on rewriting the ship, so to speak, which, you know, we have to do. And I think to reorient and have, what's the word I want to use? Not aggressive, but I guess a solid plan that is very different from what we're doing, because it just clearly doesn't work. So I can support that. I also want to just mention, I think on the question that you asked, Councilmember Pacheco, what are we doing internally to make sure that, you know, all of our documents, the bureaucracy, that small business owners, regardless of what your background is, but certainly if English is not your first language, or maybe whatever, that we're looking at languages across the region, how are we making sure that our information translates very easily so that they can understand? Are we working on that?
I've seen many impressive efforts, but I want to be honest that I don't think I can speak holistically to those efforts, and I don't know if one of our
I can
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
council members. One of the things one of the opportunities that we have as a council in general is really translating the forms. And that's something that Councilmember Pacheco, you have mentioned before, Councilmember Gonzalez, you have mentioned, texted me, called me, talked about it. And that's one of the opportunities that truly we have as a council. We don't have a central location that does translating. I have seen some forms, just to be transparent, that have been brought to me and said, hey, can you read this, right? And I've read it, and as we know, Spanish, French, we have dialects. So we have to make sure that it's a neutral, especially in Spanish, right? Because you can say one word and it could mean something completely different, right? So that's one of the questions that I have, or one of the items that I'm working with Terry, our communications director, just to make sure that we have the right folks engaged to make sure that we have different languages, the Hmong language. I saw a form this week and I gave it to one of our Hmong employees and they were reading it and they couldn't understand a couple of the words. So that's troubling to me, especially if we're trying to get businesses to really engage with us or even recruit folks. So that's an opportunity that we have that I'm working on, and hopefully we'll come to a conclusion and a positive outcome for the whole of the council, because I think that's really, really, really critical for us.
I think so. I mean, that's almost a no-brainer, so thanks to everybody, and thanks for your leadership on that, because I hear about that too. We all do, right? There are certain folks out there that English is your primary language, right? So I appreciate that. Just a side note, Hennepin County has a really great program through some of their COVID money that they've got that are helping entrepreneurs and small businesses to get all the basics in line, and I've got some of that information. I'd like to just share it with you guys. It's only Hennepin County right now, but it's for everybody, and they've got advisors that have been set and contracted for by Hennepin County that are from all kinds of diverse backgrounds and communities and languages. So there's another resource that if people need some other things to get into the system that you're talking about, Hennepin County has a great program that they're offering within their economic development department. So I'll share that with you later if that helps at all. I know it's a side note from this, but I wanted to just bring that out.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, we really are seeking all opportunities we can to bring people into this pipeline. And if I may digress for just a moment to something more intersectional to an earlier comment about, we spent the 4 and the 6 and we're riding the ship. I completely agree with that characterization of the situation. I do feel compelled in acknowledgement of the extremely good work of my team to point out that our entire response to COVID and to the resignation has been absorbed and managed within our established budgets, and that we anticipate coming in under budget this year as we did last year, and that we are proposing an increase in our future budget substantially less than our peers. Well under inflation, and IT inflation is much higher with the chip shortages and all these other complications. So I just want to emphasize that I feel like we're rising to these challenges while still being very conscious of our constituents' resources they give us.
Really appreciate that. And I heard you use the word crisis and maybe pull back. Hey, it's okay, like we're in a moment here. So you guys are empowered to do this, you're the right people. We're all in it together, so I appreciate you bringing this forward. And just like everything, keep us posted on a regular basis. I'll work with George so that we can know how are we doing at certain intervals and how's the money being spent, and and just seeing what results we're getting for it, because we want to invest in this heavily, and yet we want results. So everybody that we're contracting with, get those results in writing, and let's hope it all happens. But we'd like to stay updated as much as possible, when it makes sense. So. All right, any other questions on this? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion then to approve my proposed action that we authorize the regional administrator to execute contracts listed in the item today for technology temporary staffing services for a total amount not to exceed $6 million.
So moved.
Moved by Gonzalez, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Barber. Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. That passes unanimously. So thank you for your great work. We really appreciate it. Keep going.
Thank you.
Yep. Our last item under non-consent business is construction and design build contract thresholds increase. Jody, you're going to take us through this one as well.
Madam Chair, committee members, really excited to be with you today. As you're aware, oh goodness, did that? There we go. Thank you. Policy is set at the council by policymakers like you, our council members. And I'm here today to request an increase to the expenditures policy 14-2 that outlines approval to accept or reject any offer for the procurement of construction or design build projects valued at not more than $2.5 million. But today's business action is to amend that policy and increase the authority to $10 million. What this policy or what this change doesn't include is the existing approval for goods and services. That'll remain at $500,000. And in the presentation, I'll walk through a history, the market conditions, and the data that we've analyzed to help make this recommendation, and then finalize with the action. Since George has been at the council, he's really been an advocate to challenge the business units, especially the support services business units like procurement, to review policies and procedures and actively seek out opportunities for continuous improvement. And that's exactly what this is. This is part of the whole construction process that we view as an opportunity for continuous improvement. And you may recall a few months ago, the expenditures policy was revised to increase the delegation for real estate approvals. Again, this is just for construction and design build to increase it to $10 million. This will not only help procurement, but it'll also help the business units and our contractors, including our DBE contractors and our MCUB contractors, move quicker from when they submit their bid to when the contract is executed. All right, so I'll walk through a little bit of the history The expenditures policy or the procurement policy for expenditures was approved in late 2013. And that change that occurred for goods and services at that time was $250,000 and increased the delegation up to $500,000. And for construction projects, it increased it from $1 million up to $2.5 million. And so the policy was actually approved in late 2013, but it wasn't implemented into procurement templates and into our documents until early 2014. So our data point starts in 2014, just a point of information. Also want to bring to your attention that each construction project uses a very templated contract that's been approved by the Office of General Counsel and Risk. This action does not include any changes to the standardized Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity process where they set goals and they review goals. Construction projects in particular are a highly standardized set of specifications where we're asking contractors to give us our price, their best price. The budget for each of these projects is pre-approved annually through the pertinent committee of origin, which is typically Environment Committee or the Transportation Committee, and then up through the council. And each of these projects has an independent cost estimate prepared by the project manager, and it's verified through a cost analysis. All right, I can move the slides. So as you're aware, the market has been extremely volatile. There's been huge price fluctuations, lots of shortages. And I recently had a conversation with one of our MCUB vendors who's a fencing contractor. And she referenced to me, of course, with her fencing, one of the major commodities is lumber and wood. And her costs have exploded over the last few years. And she could not get confirmation on her pricing for longer than 8 hours. And so it illustrates that this is a constantly evolving issue with the market. I mean, this is really one of the main factors why we believe this is so important to take action to be able to reduce the time frame and reduce or improve the way we do business to get to award faster. We want to be quicker with our move to contract execution. The council procurement department has also participated on a work group with the governor's office, with MnDOT, our partners at the Department of Administration, the Minnesota Association of General Contractors, and the Association of Women Contractors. And we continue to hear again and again and again that there is stressed market volatility, and it impacts their business and it impacts where they bid and how much they bid. There's also price volatility, again, looking at the policy when it was last approved in 2013. It really depends on the commodity, but prices in some areas have definitely doubled. There's a labor shortage issue. The metro area in particular, as you are aware, has one of the lowest unemployment rates. And the council on average has seen fewer bids. Our team, my procurement team, many who are here today, have really done a great job with extra market outreach, actively pushing out our notices to some of the associations. We've created the project forecast webpage. We're publishing notice and trade publications, but there's really only so much that we can do. And we are hearing from the contractors that they're just being really selective with who they're choosing to bid. There's a lot of public transportation work, and they're bidding to the public agencies that have the most advantageous terms, and really those agencies from when they can submit their bid and go to that contract execution the fastest. The common factor in the market volatility and a lot of the issues that we're seeing is time. And our contracting industry partners also have a compressed time window when they're making key financial decisions. Like, for example, which projects are they gonna spend their precious resources on preparing a bid and then submitting that bid. And with so many uncontrollables, the one thing that we can control is our proactive response. And this is how we believe we can make an impact. We certainly don't wanna minimize those market conditions, but the time factor has been an area that we've heard many times from our small businesses. In a recent conversation with Barb Lau, who's the Association of Women Contractors president, she said that she has heard from many of her members that they're really being selective about which council projects that they choose to bid because it takes too long. And so we know that with small businesses that they have a lot more unique constraints. They definitely have less capital to be able to float a price increase, less capital to float an extended solicitation period, and timing again is that constant piece that's critical and will impact their business. And you'll see in the business item, in the small business inclusion section that was prepared by the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity, that they further emphasize this would have a positive impact to small businesses and to targeted vendors. So here's how we'll do it. Our intent with this change is to reduce the bid validity timeframe. And what the bid validity is from the time when a contractor submits their bid. We have a public bid opening where we announce the name of the bidder and the price that they offered to contract execution. The bid validity period legally commits the vendor to that price and the terms in their offer. And they're not able to withdraw their offer because there's a financial penalty of their bid bond if they did withdraw it. We believe that this has an opportunity to reduce our bid validity period to 45 days. In the spring, our bid validity period was 90 days. And again, my staff, really great staff doing great work, listening to our contractors, talking to our partners in the business office. They looked at the data and they determined that we could automatically reduce the bid validity period to 60 days. But our goal is 45 days. Our peer agency's bid validity period also varies. MnDOT's bid validity period is 33 days. The Department of Admin is 30. Hennepin County is 60. City of St. Paul is 60. The Metropolitan Airports Commission, otherwise known as MAC, is 70 days. The City of Minneapolis is 90 days. And Ramsey County is 60 days. What we know from our data that we've analyzed and looking at the procurement action lead time is that on average, it takes an extra 37 days for council approval. And that's for a business, an individual business item to be submitted for each project and then to be routed again to typically through Environment Committee or Transportation Committee up through the council. And so the ability to increase the authority for construction of projects will give us a great opportunity to move forward faster. Now we want to look at the data. Again, this was a staff-initiated review, which I need to give credit to Paul Dotson, who's here, because my immediate reaction was to double the signature authority. foolishly thinking that that would make a huge difference in outcome and in days. And really looking at the data to make the best decision, it was Paul who courageously said, we can have the most impact and reduce our bid validity period to 45 days if we increase to $10 million. And so I'll walk through a little bit of this data. Again, this is back from when we increased signature authority in early 2014 to the spring of this year. And there were a total of 354 construction contracts that were executed. The big chunk, which is on the left, the lighter blue, the sky blue.
And are we looking at 2021 data? And this is, I didn't know, what year was this data?
Madam Chair and committee members, this is cumulative data of construction contracts only since 2014.
Okay, got it, thank you.
So the sky blue to the left in the pie chart, the large chunk, represents 59% of construction projects, indicating 210 individual construction projects at a value of less than $1 million. And those were approved through the internal delegations. No business item was needed on those. And then on the lower right, the harvest yellow color, it's 1 million to 2.5 million contracts. There were 54 contracts, or 15% of that total. Again, did not need an individual business item or council approval, just through the standardized systematic process. So the blue and the yellow represent 74% of the total construction projects over this time frame. Now, the next two pie chunks represent what you wouldn't see if this change was approved. The gray is the area of 2.5 to 5 million, and in this time frame, there were a total of 25 contracts, or representing 7% of the total. Above that, in the orange, is 5 million to 10 million, representing a similar number, 24 contracts, or 7%. And the total of those two sections is cumulatively 49 contracts, or representing 14% of the whole. And that's where I really credit staff for looking at the data to really make a thoughtful, systematic change to make a difference. The royal blue at the top represents contracts greater than 10 million, 41 contracts, or 10%, and there would be no change to these contracts. Each of these contracts would have their individual business item and approval through the council. Again, each of these contracts are very templated with a systematic process, highly standardized with a set of specifications, and we believe this would be helpful not only for the council, but their contractors to move forward faster. And so before I read the proposed action, or I could read the action, I could pause to ask for any questions that council members have.
Sure, are there any questions? Councilmember Pacheco.
Madam Chair, council members, I'm kind of stuck in between looking at pre-bid, if you will. And what I'm looking at is that we have a lot of work to be done, especially the construction area. We have a lot of properties. We have a lot of opportunities. And where I looked at a program that I think the State Department of Transportation did, and what it was that as you ride your bike down the sidewalk and you get to that little cutout there. Rather than give a major contract to somebody, they broke up those cutouts. So Cruise Concrete can do that job, And I hear the same things you do about the difficulty of having the capacity. We don't have the bonding capacity, we don't have the, the bid capacities. John, I'm out there doing the work, so I don't have the back of the house. And so what does it take then for us to take a look at how many more contracts we could do and accomplish while supporting some of these small businesses in getting them done, either by just directly saying this is the capacity is what we're looking for this number, or looking at what, if we're contracting with a major construction outfit, working with them to the possibility of them be the prime vendor and these are the smaller vendors. Therefore, helping them get through the bonding capacity and some other things that they're facing today. And so I just, so even before you let these contracts out, have we done an analysis of what is there a way that can be done that impacts the small businesses as well as get the construction done that you need? So I think we need to take a look at that in the future as far as the total capacity and what percentage it actually gets to the small business when we can choose either one. But anyway, it's something to think about.
Joe, did you have a response for that?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Councilmember Pacheco, what I can say is nothing happens in a vacuum. It's really a collaborative approach, and I see my team showing up as thought leaders with their partners in the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity and the business units. Everyone is really looking for strategic and thoughtful approaches to get that engagement that we need to support the project, support the contractors, and really help the region move forward. And it's really not an answer, but more of a comment that we're looking to do things differently and have different inputs to get to that different outcome.
Okay, thank you, good point. Anything else on this item? Councilmember Gonzalez.
Just a quick question, and I appreciate the detailed explanation as to why we needed to expedite and accelerate the process for the benefit of the vendors and also for reducing our red tape and all of that. For the benefit of folks that might be wondering about transparency and oversight by the council on our expenditures. I think that this makes a good case for the increase in the budget and the appropriation authority. I was just wondering about, like you said, Jody, that you were thinking about doubling from 2.5 to 5 million, and then the recommendation was made to go to 10. I know nothing about the context, but why not 20? I mean, how did we select the 10 as opposed to any other number in there? Is there something magical about 10 million?
Do we have an answer for that?
Chair Johnson, council members of Gonzalez, I feel like I'm looking for my kids in the audience. If Laura or Paul, if you want to come and help answer that question, really looking at the data and the analytics behind this request.
And we know that, next item. We know that the blue area is outside, and that
Yes.
would be what's left. So we'd have another, how many percent? If we went to the moon, we'd have another 12% that we could grab. So I'll turn it over to you for that specific response.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. So,
And could you just introduce yourself?
Laura Better, Assistant Director of the Council's Procurement Department.
Thank you.
One piece of data that I'd like to share with you regarding the why the 10, why not 5? So after an analysis of all the data, what we found is that going to council has added historically to all those contracts since 2014, 37 days of procurement action lead time. Procurement action lead time is what we share with the business units in our service level agreements as to how long to expect your bid to be advertised and then to contract execution. So when we're looking at that number, we saw that 37 days and we wanted our request to be driven by the data.
And I think if I may, the question was not from 5 to 10, but why not more than 10? That was the question. And I think I was just trying to get to it, that we'd catch another 12 if we put no limit at all. So maybe we're trying to do it incrementally. I'm not answering for you, but that's what I'm hearing in your presentation.
Yeah, Madam Chair and committee members, we're gonna continue to look at the data, right, to make sure that it's right. And our goal, maybe aspirational, is really to be a public owner where contractors wanna bid. We want to get to the numbers of bid validity like MnDOT has of 33 days and the Department of Admin of 30 days. But frankly, they don't have to go to council, they don't have to go to the committees and to the council. So we continue to be really aggressive at looking parts of the whole where we don't lose compliance, we do not compromise our process. We make sure that you get an opportunity to see the projects that are really of interest to you and to be able to provide that input. There really was no magic. It was the data that drove us to look at not just doubling it, and really at my staff's urging.
Are there any other questions? I'm keeping an eye on time because we have another informational item that's very important, and then we go in closed session too, so we can get to council. Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very quickly, I think what would be very, very helpful is in your very wonderful quarterly reports.
Yes.
It would be good to kind of see how this unfolds so we can kind of get to track it. And so some of the questions I think that have been asked, we can kind of digest through that process. And that would be good just to target some examples from that would fall under this.
And that's a great point. In fact, when I was prepped for the meeting, I said the same thing to George. If we can now see what additional contracts are able to be moved ahead in a more expeditious manner, we'd like to see that. And I know you'll manage that with the team too, so that we can do exactly that. So thanks, Councilmember Barber. I think we'd all like to see what that result is kind of in our ongoing basis. Okay, so no other discussion? Let's move to a motion if someone is so moved to make the motion.
So,
Councilmember Gonzalez moves, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Barber, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And that passes unanimously, so thank you very much. Really appreciated the presentation too. It helps us, I think, get through it, get all the data that backs it all up, so appreciate that.
Great, thank you.
All right, we have one item information, that's our medical and dental rates, self-insurance. Marie Henderson, I should say, Deputy Financial Officer, oh, is that you? I'm sorry. George, you told me that. George will be making the presentation. We've got 14 slides, George, so.
I'm gonna try to use it.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
I didn't have an espresso today, but
All right, let's see how we go.
Madam Chair, committee members, this is informational item regarding the self-insured healthcare benefits that the council provides. My name is George Gonzalez, we're the administrator and CFO. On behalf of Marie, on behalf of Marie, she's out of town, so I'll be presenting to her and review with you the premium rate recommendations for 2023. As we know, as we come up to full open enrollment period, we present to the management committee for general concurrence of a recommended premium rate for our self-insured health plans for 2023. For rating settings, we focus on the total premium of revenues needed to cover expected costs for the program. It's basically a math exercise to just put it in plain English. The rate settings does not consider the employee share of the premiums. Okay, so that is part of our bargaining agreements with and labor strategy. And you can stop me at any time as we go through this. Okay, so change my slide here so I can see. So basically, like I said, it's a math exercise. We utilize an actuary to calculate our estimated plan costs as we move to the future. There is a lot of assumptions that actuary uses to calculate and project the plan costs. This includes, COVID-19 impacts, capability, vaccines, testing, direct COVID costs, and referred care returns. Claims experience over the last 24 months, that's taken into consideration medical claims, medical trend rates, pharmacy rates, plan expenditures, administrative costs, etc. And especially, as we talk about it, is the inflation as well, right? You hear that all the time. So claims, the actuaries utilize multiple experience periods to limit potential volatility in the rate projected for year over year. So the projected cost that needs to be funded by the premiums, it's $83.4 million, and that's an increase of $3.4 million from this year, from 2022. Okay. So the projected cost is to be covered by the expected enrollment. It's $75.6 million, which is a decrease of 0.6. Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair? Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question. I'm curious when they were doing the calculations, how they factored in the impact of COVID, both on healthcare expenses and on the actual healthcare costs, because there's definitely been increases because of that. And how is that adjusted?
So, Madam Chair, committee members, I have no idea. To be completely transparent with you. So, Marcy? Do you know Marcy?
It's just how was
it
COVID's
calculated?
medical impact calculated through actuary into this, since it's such an anomaly, how did it factor in? Did I get that right?
Yes, because it's skewed data everywhere, so
Yeah.
I'm curious.
I may not have the answer for you, so
Fine.
I'll get it for you. How about that?
Yeah. I think that's good. If, you know, we know that it sits in there, and your question's a great one. So what did it do to this data?
Yeah.
And, you know, what maybe tails there might be to it as well, because we still are living with COVID to a degree. It's not gone, and other stuff is out there too. So thank you for bringing that back. If that's okay? Okay,
Is
good.
that okay?
Yep.
All right. Okay. So our healthcare plans, we have three healthcare plans at the council. The open access plan is for ATU members only. Distinctions and employer HRA, which is high deductible, are plans open to all employees and early retirees. In 2023, HRA contributions for the council is projected, it's at $3,517,250. So the single, it's basically $1,375. So you times that, the 630, and that would be $866,250. And for the families, $2,750. Basically, that's the cost. For 2020, just in comparison, for 2022, HRA contributions for the council were $3,546,125. A lot of numbers and a lot of information, so if you need more information, I'll definitely, and because of time, I want to make sure that we have enough time.
Yeah.
So there are multiple principles that are used, and principle number one is the total premiums to ensure that the risk is shared by all of those enrollees in the same plan. For example, those open access should cover all anticipated open access claims, as one example.
I'm just gonna pause for a moment. So I'm watching the time, and I think we're gonna need a chunk of time for our next item, closed session. We have a couple of options. We get through this. I'm assuming we need to vote on this tonight because we can't bring it back. Can we bring it back? Oh, it's informational, that's right.
So I can bring it next time.
Let's do that, yeah, okay. We appreciate this. At least we've got the information. We can be prepped, and we'll bring this back at our next meeting without objection. We'll go ahead and bring it back at the next item. Okay, so without objection, we're gonna move on then to our last information item, which is labor strategy, and that is closed session. I'll turn to Councilmember Lee.
Madam Chair,